Okay. Okay, so we should be live. It's Ken O'Neill and myself, Christophe Clugston, and we're here on a Sunday afternoon. I sort of want to start doing. I want to do the Moody Blues. I want to do the Moody Blues Tuesday afternoon for some reason, but I don't know. We don't have a studio. We don't have a soundtrack. We need a soundtrack of some sort, Ken. But
well, there's the one. There's the one for the special other thing that was put on. Yeah, but
okay.
But well, you know what? I don't know, man. That one's not so bad, really. It kind of fits everything in a way when you think about it.
Yeah. Well, okay. So we're here, and once again, we just have these wild thoughts. And there's two guys from the JKD branch way back when, original guys, authentic, and but we do other things now, and so we have thoughts about lots of stuff. And one of the things that we have thoughts about is that we're going to have upcoming training in near Halloween, close to Halloween, the weekend before Halloween, which I bet a lot of people use that as they go out then because people in the United States are just too weak to actually do things on the actual day unless it's the weekend. So I bet that they use Saturday as the Halloween. But anyway, that being said, we have stuff coming up, and I'll say this before we get into it: is Ken's stuff's going to be in St. Louis, Missouri, United States, and my stuff's going to be in Ravenna, Ohio, United States, which is it's not too far from Cleveland. It's about 40 minutes away, 40 to 45 minutes away from Cleveland, Ohio. So that's where we'll be. I'll be. I think everybody's welcome to both of these. You don't have to be an expert. You don't have to have trained before to do either one of our trainings. But I'll let Ken get into what he's going to do. Yours is to what 27th or 28th of.
Mine's only on the 27th. It's just
27th.
Okay. It's kind of a follow up to what we did a couple of weeks ago. Mine is where mine's really different from what you're doing. Mine is not oriented to offensive knife work. What we're doing is more geared to one of the things I like to call kind of a worst case scenario thing a lot, which is more what my students in general would tend to run into, which is the other guy got the knife and you ain't. It's that routine. It's empty hand work. So, just in a nutshell, without giving away a lot of specific details, there's a lot of reaction speed work involved. There's a lot of dealing with fear work involved. There's a tremendous amount of movement and precision and timing work involved. We don't spend a lot of time doing real overly prescribed technical versions of disarms. I approach that a little differently. It's a bit more of a conceptual approach to it that allows people to be able to be more successful with more gross motor kind of work. They don't have to have memorized a bunch of techniques to have a chance to survive this and escape it. In a nutshell, that's how I would frame the orientation of what we're doing. Defensive work against facing the fear, using your breathing to keep going, using your breathing to control your emotions, a lot of reflex training, movement training, and trying to really develop your gross motor abilities more so in this case, because we're oriented to escaping the attack. That's the goal.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I know what you're talking about, and you're dropping the finesse pattern stuff that some people do, and going towards an idea of conceptually, as you said, to understand and respond. So can you break it down like you're doing 4 hours, right? Can you break it down for people, like what you plan to do hour by hour, more or less?
To some degree, I'll do that. A lot of times what we do in the beginning is, because we're going to be doing a lot of explosive stuff, and the training weapons are, they're not edged, but they're typically metal. They are metal training blades. So the idea is, they still inflict a lot of pain. They still scare people. You know, it still hurts like hell when you get stabbed with those. And we do focus a lot more on stabbing than slashing. It's you know, a guy close in super close quarters grabbing you, pumping that knife into you is much more real and tougher to deal with than, you know, some guy just walking around doing wacky slashes. Anyway, so the first hour is typically a lot of movement to warm up that's oriented to a lot of what we're trying to bring out in the drills. You know, how to get your body offline, how to turn and move your body, how to use a lot of complete body mechanics rather than being a solid little block standing there, you know, going back and forth in a linear way, getting the hell stabbed out of you. You know, so we try to free people up. There's falling, rolling, jumping, crawling, all kinds of manner of using your body to move, twist, turn, and escape, get away, get an advantage, try to get behind a guy. So a lot of how I warm people up, they don't even realize, but they're doing a lot of the kind of stuff that I'm going to put them through as we start doing exercises where they face scenarios where they're on the ground, they're on their stomach, they're on their back, a guy's climbing on top of them, or a guy's comes in, grabs fast and starts trying to pump them with a knife. Guy's behind, he's grabbing the head, pulling the head back, trying to cut your foot. You know, we work through a lot of different scenarios. Then we start getting into, for a while, there's a lot of what I would call when the gap's closed and you start making that initial contact. You know, that's limb to body or body to body or limb to limb. And there's a lot of speed work that we do right there, incorporating the body mechanics that come in that are worked on a lot during the warm-up phase. You're doing a lot of speed and reaction drill stuff. When I say drill, I'm not talking about you've got this set little pattern, but I'll give you a task and I might say, okay, the guy who is defending, in essence, has to deal with the guy who's attacking. We're going to just skip for a minute how we got to this point. We're going to start from the point of the grab. We're at the instinctive grab. The guy grabs the guy's wrist, the other guy has the knife. Well, in this case, the knife is a stick and it's got some real nasty nails driven into each end of it. And what the guy being grabbed is going to do, he's going to twist and cut you as fast as he can as soon as he feels. It's an instinct, right? Guy's grabbing your knife hand and you're going to try to cut him. You're going to try to do something to escape. So there's a lot of fast reflex, touch sensitivity work. There's various ways that we play off of that principle to enhance reaction time and speed and placement and how and where you choose to make contact and when you choose to grab and when it's better not to grab. And we work through those concepts throughout the whole course. I know that might sound a little bit vague, but in principle, that's what we're doing. I don't want to get into super specifics. But another thing I'll mention too is what one mistake I've seen in a lot of knife things over the years, defensive knife work, is, you know, right away the main thing the defending guy's doing is he's trying to grab that knife hand. And I've seen that end really poorly frequently, because in the middle of that grab, I frequently see people, especially if they're not trained, they forget that this guy's got 3 other limbs. And then all of a sudden they get cold cocked in the side of the head with the other hand and wonder, what the hell happened? I thought I was going to get my fancy disarm. Now I'm on the ground and my jaw hurts and the guy just kicked me in the face, jumped on me and stabbed me in the neck, you know, because I was overly focused on that knife arm. So we address things like that, things that I've seen over the years, what people's natural tendencies are, and the millions of stories that I get from cops on the street that I know, and some of them who still train, and you know, things I've learned from a lot of people over the years. But a lot of it's more based on my own experience of what I see people do when I don't give them a script and you just put them under pressure and make them do things. I play off of a lot of those natural reactions, you know, plus using case studies, you know, of things that have happened and how people have reacted, and blend that in, you know, to make it real. Yeah. So that's in a nutshell. That's how I would describe what we're doing.
It's sort of, you're doing situational training and the Mike Sandlin approach, more or less.
Somewhat, yeah. There's
the Mike Sandlin approach to situational training.
Yeah.
Because you don't know if you have a plan that you think is going to work. You don't know it until you've been put under extreme stress.
Right.
So that's the problem with what you're talking about with people learning certain weird stuff. And I will reiterate what I've said many times. the two ways that you're going to be actually attacked with a knife, and this is statistically proven, is that you're going to they're either going to try to stab you in the stomach or grab you like you're talking about the prison style and stab you in the stomach, and then maybe go other places, the neck, somewhere the lungs. But generally, it's as I call it, the gizzard. They're trying to stab you in the gizzard, or you will see the psycho type of, and this is this one like this. This is a cold steel knife. This like that, and it may seem weird, but that's what happens. And the thing is, people will generally put their arm behind. They'll try to keep you away from the knife. That gives them distance to stab you from. And a lot of people don't realize that. They don't deal with that. They don't act. They act like the guy is forward facing with the knife hand forward. But when people are attacking someone unarmed, they almost always put their knife back. Almost always. They put their hand, their naked hand, as we can say it, their naked hand front. So they want to latch onto you, because if they can latch onto you, then they can kill you. So you got to be aware of that. I just put that out there. It's my free training advice to be aware of that. You know, I am not doing, my thing is on the October 26th, 27th, and 28th, and I'll run through the hours of that. Mine is a urban violence, counter-urban violence. And what does that entail? Well, that entails getting attacked at very close quarters, and also handling not just one attacker. The guys will be handling two attackers in this training. Friday we do 2.5 hours on Friday, because it's part of the combat judo, and there's a complete sequence. This is exactly what I teach to military and contractors. So the new people, I have to get them introduced to it. It's like reception and introduction, and we run through some stuff. And my guys who've been with me several times, they're going to demonstrate some things that you need to go. And then Saturday, we start at noon and we go to 8 o'clock at night. We do 8 hours on Saturday, straight through, small breaks, no lunch breaks. We don't go out for buffet or anything like that, because they're going to work not only when it's light, they're going to work when it's dark. Because guess what? You get attacked when it's dark. You don't get attacked in brightly lit dojos and alleyways that are brightly lit and parking lots that are brightly lit. You get attacked, and once again, it's the same sort of thing. I'll have situational problems that they'll have to deal with, and they'll have to deal with not just one person but two people. But they will have learned of a lot of things that they will actually have hardwired. We don't really talk about the hardwiring. That's one of those proprietary things that we keep to ourselves, and we don't show anybody on video any of it. But that's the secret to how you get something. Same thing as tactical shooting. And so we have that hardwired responses, and then we put them under stress to see if they're going to do what they're supposed to do. And if they're not, then they go back through it. You know, that's the whole point. They're going to get usable skills. This isn't about me showing you a bunch of techniques and impressing you with what I can do, or you seeing 1,000 techniques. No, it's about getting a certain amount of answers, solutions. And a lot of what we're going to do, and this is actually quite similar in the fact of body movement, because it's tactical. And there's some things that people don't expect. Like the only way that you're going to handle two people is not to be faster than hell, which is what you try to see people doing in their videos. They show two slow-moving attackers and they move extremely fast, you know, which is a demo thing you'll see too. You'll see SEALOT guys. The guy throws a punch at them, and then the punch is very slow, and he hangs it out and waits, and the SEALOT guy is going 3 times faster than any of that. That's not an answer, you know. That's because as a human being, you cannot move 3 times faster than someone who's really attacking you. That's a freak human that can do that, and you're not going to be able to do it. Point blank, we'll bet money you're not going to be able to do it. So what we do, you have to have tactical advantages, and that's what we do. Same reason. How was the Vietnam or Army or the Viet Cong able to beat a superior numerical force? Because they didn't fight them the way they thought they're going to fight them. This goes back to Mike Sandlin. Don't fight the guy the way he wants you to fight him. It's the same thing. So tactically, we have body motions, body movements, like you're saying too, that we do that changes our tactical position on the enemy. And especially with two people, you got to have it. If you don't have it, you're done. I don't care. They don't wait. Unlike movies, people who attack you with 2 or 3 people, they don't wait. They don't line up in ones, and then one guy comes and another guy comes. They come all at the same time. And you cannot obviously defend straight in front of you and straight behind you at the same time. And that's obviously how you, if they're smart, that's what they're going to do to you. Or they're going to do some variation of that. They're going to get over here, and they're going to come in. And you're not, what are you going to do? You know, well, I'll tell you what to do, but you got to come to the training. So anyway, and then on Sunday, we do 2 hours. On Sunday, we do from 10 o'clock to noon, because we have an awards thing. Everything that we do now, people who go through this is what we call Charlie Camp, counter-urban violence. This is our Charlie Camp. And people who make it through the camp, which everyone should be able to do, because it's not a course. We have differences between our camps and courses. The camp, they get a certificate, and then we have an excellence award for 2 people, the 2 best people who were showing excellence during the entire time. And it's a pretty hard, it's a hard fought award nowadays, because I got my prior guys, man, they are I'm not lying, they are tooth and nail about this excellence award thing. And if you are not on every single hour, you're not going to win the award. That's how rough it is now. And like I've had guys doing really, really well. Then suddenly the brain fade for 10 minutes, boom, there goes their award, because someone else didn't brain fade, you know? So it's a good test. It's another thing to put stress on people, because I don't care about going to clinics and workshops and seminars where people just watch other people and they're not focused on learning. They're talking with other people. They're not glued to what they're doing, and they're never put under stress. That may work for some people. That's how they teach, but that's not what we're doing. I'm teaching real skills, just like I have to do with the military or contractors. I have to get results, and you're going to be glued. And the way that I train is the way that you've never trained before like this, unless you've been in a special training unit scenario or trained with me before. This is different than how I've trained people outside. I never did this with normal people, but now I do this with normal people, and they're grooving to it and they love it. So anyway, so just to reiterate, so that's in Ravenna, Ohio, and that's going to start on Friday night at 7 o'clock p.m. to 9:30, and then on Saturday it will start at noon and go to 8 p.m., and then on Sunday it'll start at 10 a.m. and end at noon. So you can make it there. Check out my combat-judo.com or fluentfighting.com. Look for the seminar link, and then you'll see the details about it. And get in. And also there's some special offers for new time people too, if you're new time, so that you can have a chance to start with us, because we're growing, and we're trying to help people with that. Now, I know that a lot of people are going to want to know about why this weekend for the thing. Well, because actually the occurrence of violence goes up on holiday weekend in the United States. There's more crime on the Halloween weekend than there is prior to that. So that's one of the reasons why we're running this. So you might actually learn something that might help you and protect the other people that you know. Because that weekend, there's, as you know, there's a lot of toilet papering and tricks being played, stuff like that. But there are also people who legitimately rob places because people are wearing masks and stuff. So it's pretty common. And so this is just one of the reasons why we picked this weekend. And I just have to say, you know, everybody, give them contact information for you, Ken, if somebody's interested, and give them like the price, you know, give them the price.
I think the best thing to do is, well, you know, you can either find me on Facebook, or here, I'll put this up real quick. I'll do it the old-fashioned way. It's like a cue card coming from the back. But there's my phone number, 314-504-1178. Call me. If you don't catch me, leave a message. I'll get back with you, and we'll talk about it. You know, one of the things, you brought up a lot of good points there, and we, principles conceptually, you know, we're in total agreement. You're coming at it from the other side too, but which is fine. But one of the things I wanted to say about all this is, you know, knife training to me, of all of it, is I think it brings out the most important aspects of training, period. I mean, when you know, folks get pretty quickly, they're pretty comfortable with getting hit, even getting hit pretty hard. But man, as soon as that knife comes out, even when it's a training knife, there's a psychological and emotional component to that I'm convinced people are responding to, even though the knife may not be edged. Certainly, it still hurts like crazy, but it goes beyond that. There's something about the fact that it's a knife, you know, and you ask people, and I do this question all the time. What scares you more, a knife or a gun? A knife is more scary. You know, it's up close, it's personal, it's in your face. A lot of people already know sometimes if they get shot and something vital doesn't get hit right away, you know, you got this clean wound. And I've had numerous people heard them say that it didn't even really hurt. It doesn't hit a bone or, you know, hit an organ or a neural plexus or something, you know, they don't even necessarily feel the pain. But up close and personal, flesh being opened up, you know, that knife being buried into you, like Christophe has said numerous times, man, you know, you're going into shock really fast, you're losing blood, you know, it's down and dirty, meaner, nastier business that's up close and super personal in your face, right? So what better microcosm for training about dealing with your own emotions and fear in a situation than that knife? To me, nothing brings it out more than knife work. I mean, it's the ultimate trainer. Plus, people will get lazy when they're just being punched and kicked, and they don't move as much. But man, you know, you start stabbing them, and damn boy, wow, I didn't know you could move like that. I say that all the time. I didn't know you could move like that, because getting stuck in your you start moving your butt. It's like, well, look at that. Oh, Johnny Lazy Boy can move his ass, you know. I mean, it brings it out, you know. It gets motivation.
But the thing about a knife, here's the thing about a knife that changes everything. Power is not needed. Power is not needed. Unlike having a knockout punch, you don't need a knockout stab, because if you have a sharp knife, it's going in. And that's the difference. And that's what makes everybody dangerous with a knife, because even very weak people can kill you with a knife. And that's what makes it very, very dangerous, because now the power attribute is no longer needed. And this is something I should say, is that women can be very, 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 very severely dangerous with a knife, because where they're lacking on the power in a one-on-one or a 1-on-2 or 3, bare, no weapons, that suddenly is not a disadvantage for them when they have a knife, because now the power is not a deciding factor. With the knife, power is not a deciding factor. So, and I got to reiterate that, so people need to know that. And it's one of the things too, like if you want to know how to use a knife offensively, it's good to get the defensive part down first. I've always said that. And that's always trained everybody on everything. I get them defensively very good, whether it be against punches, kicks, boards, shovels, knives. I get them good defensively, and then we can go offensively. And so that's a thing that Mike Silent said a long time ago to me. Is like, if you can't knock him out, be sure he can't knock you out. You know, the meaning, if your power is off, or whatever the case may be. In this case, like a woman doesn't have the power generation, has spent years at it, you know. Make sure you're not being knocked out. And that's one of the things. Defense, actual real defense, is something I see lacking in most people's stuff. They say attack first, be preemptive. Why do they do that? Well, because it's the easy answer. It's to give them, it's a solution, but it's not really a solution. And they don't really know how to train people how to be defensively sound. And I do, and I've done it for a long time. But that's what you'll see a lot. And that's it's very important to know where other people are going to make faults, because you need to have that list with you. Once again, like I talked about the last week when we were having a talk, you need to have a list and know what you want to do. And then you also want to check a list. Just like if you're going to buy a car, nowadays you're going to make sure it has an airbag and seat belts, right? Well, in our case, our airbag and seat belts is us being defensively soundproof against. None of my guys are scared of punches. I mean, please try to punch them, because you just walked into a trap. You've walked into a trap if you try to punch them. And at a higher level, the same thing with knife stuff, certain knife stuff. my guys. See now, okay, I got to reiterate. I am not training knife stuff this time around. I'm doing urban warfare violence, which is someone's trying to rob you at ATM. Someone's trying to push you into the van, kidnap you in a parking lot. Two people are trying to abduct you in an alley. Those are the sorts of things that we're dealing with. Once again, it's not bar fights, it's not street fights, it's violence. It's meaning there's no talking your way out of it. There's no de-escalation of it. Meaning that you have to have things that will. And here's a secret. I'll give out a secret. One of the things you have to be able to do is damage the attacker. You have to be able to put damage, not a flick, not a little sting, not a little whatever. You have to be able to damage that person. You got to take away the mobility. You got to, and there's some other things, but I'll just say that right now. You want to take their mobility out, which is another thing that you definitely want to do with the knife guy, because if they don't have any mobility, they're not going to. Mobility is the king at all times. And that's something we go back to Bruce Lee. That's why he spent so much time at it, because he was trying to emulate Muhammad Ali, who was very good at moving. And he showed the heavyweight boxing world what moving could do. And so everybody tried to imitate him during that time period. And Bruce Lee was no different. And Bruce Lee, because he was small, had to try. He couldn't absorb shots. He had to try to move quite a bit. So a lot of the original JKD stuff that we went through was about us moving, about getting us to move. And that's continued in the work that you're doing and continued in my work, but considering the limitations of people carrying heavy weights and heavy equipment, because that changes everything. You're not moving that damn fast when you're carrying 80 pounds or more. You just can't, and you don't have the energy either. So anyway, I just want to put that out there. I just want to say overall, Ken, what is are you running your classes on a sequential basis? I'm not talking about this seminar, but that you're doing, but like on your weekly classes, are they? Do you go on a sort of a programmed approach, or how you do it? Because people have asked me.
Yeah, no, the way my classes work is, yeah, that's a good one. I would probably the easiest way to put it, without this taking a half an hour, would be to say that here's a good example. There used to be a TV show about a detective, a blind detective, a guy named Longstreet. Okay, James Franciscus was the actor. And this was in the 60s when Bruce Lee was just starting to, show up on TV. In fact, Bruce was in several segments of this show. And one of the things that came out of this show that was excellent is that every class where this guy trained with Bruce was a lesson in itself. That class could stand on its own. It was a standalone lesson. And to a large degree, that's how I approach my classes. Every class is a standalone lesson. There's something to take away that, just like the way I'm approaching the workshop, I'll have guys in there with 30 years experience and more, and I'll have a few people in there. I'm going to probably have 2 in there that have never done anything before, and then a whole lot of other people in between. There'll be at least one, I think, one recent former Army Ranger who's been deployed numerous times in Afghanistan. Police officers that have been in the street, it's all kinds of crazy tactical situations. It'll be a crazy spectrum, but here's the one thing that'll be good in common for all of them. No matter what level they are already and what experience level, there will still be things that happen in this workshop that will be standalone lessons for every one of them in there. And that's how I approach my classes too. So it's not, the training and learning model is not sequential in the sense that, okay, this is karate class number 17, and we're on 3-step sparring set number 14, which is, high block, inside block, reverse punch. No, that's not how we approach anything. There are a lot of exercises and drills that we do that bring out, we focus on mobility and precision in everything. And nothing that we do typically has any type of a pattern to it at all. I'll give you an example. If we're doing a very basic exercise, and the exercise is to deal with a single direct attack coming in, I won't prescribe the attack. the attack can be whatever. The only thing that I in a sense will prescribe is we'll have done a set of mobility exercises that'll give a person various ways that they can move, and then in the moment, without having time to really think about it, I put people and set them up in situations so that their natural movement tendencies will come out, and then we'll see if it failed or if it succeeded, and then we'll analyze that, and then we'll work with that and create solutions for when it failed. And that's probably a better way to try to succinctly explain how the approach works, which really is, in many ways, this is like the old JKD classes of yesteryear that we did with Mike. But what I do have is I do have much more involved structures as far as the kinds of exercises that we do to get our bodies to move much more freely and precisely than anything that I had originally learned, doing that type of work. But the basic mentality of spontaneity and natural movement are there. So that's how I would say how my classes work.
Yeah, so the thing that I'm thinking about, because people have asked me, so how are Ken's classes run? And I've tried to give the description that you basically put people in situations, and you have an ongoing set of skills that they learn to handle different situations, but you put them in new situations and then see how they will respond, and then try to correct them from there. Which is it's hard for people to understand that unless they've gone through it.
Yeah.
And it's we went through that more or less with Mike. You would basically, Mike's thing was following. He would make you better with your tools. You did tool sharpening, as it was called, the JKD days, and you would practice on things to get different attributes better, faster, more powerful movement. Yeah. So you're working on attributes, but you're working more on global attributes, and not such a specific thing.
Well, here, I'll put it this way. There are numerous exercises on things like I get very nitpicky about how to train your arm, so to speak, so that when you punch, your wrist is never bent. You're making contact with the full fist, not just two knuckles. There are various ways that we achieve that. Believe it or not, numerous types of push-ups help condition the tendons and ligaments in the limbs and they work your form. If you do wrist push-ups, fist push-ups, well, you can't have what I call sloppy boxer wrists and do a wrist push-up. You'll break your damn wrist. You'll sprain it immediately because it's bent. Guys that have done hand wraps and gloves a lot, they all know what I'm talking about their first night in class, because they'll tend to throw punches a lot and their wrist looks like this instead of like this. So there's a lot of drills, a lot of training that we do to give people really good form that becomes second nature, that as soon as they make a fist, their fist is solid. And when they hit you, they're going to hit you with a hammer that's the entire surface of the fist. They're not going to just try to focus two knuckles and all that stuff. They're going to hit you with their full fist, a little more surface area. Same thing with even with if you're striking with empty hands, doing push-ups in such a way that you're really strengthening the wrists and getting the tendons and the ligaments and the muscles in the hands really strong. Same thing even with grabbing motions. We have tons of exercises for developing everything, and we really focus on creating tendon strength, explosiveness, speed and timing. So don't get the idea that all I'm doing is putting you in situational work. There's tons of building the tools, as Christophe just mentioned, precision striking drills, which we've gotten away from virtually all protective equipment, and we hit each other. And you learn to do this first softly and more lightly, and when you train on big muscle groups a lot so that you can hit a guy really hard. So what's the advantage of that? Well, the advantage is you got to be really precise to hit a guy in the gut without hitting him right in the shoulder plexus or being off center and hitting him in the ribs. Now you just busted up your partner and you can't train for the next 2 weeks, right? So a lot of the training we'll do initially, especially, is on big muscle groups. And at the same time, the receiver of those strikes is learning how to breathe and move with those blows, so that they don't walk around with giant fist imprints for the next 3 days and gigantic, massive bruises all over their body. because when your body, it's just like the old medicine ball drills, which we do sometime, by the way. You lay a guy on the floor and you start bouncing the medicine ball on his ribs. What happens after a while? Well, his body starts to respond. It's like the callus effect. The intercostal muscles start to get more dense. They start to get stronger, just like Christophe trained when he was kickboxing. Same thing in the gut, right? And before you know it, your body responds differently, and the blood flow is different, and it gets harder and harder for you to even get bruised. You just have to take the body through a lot of conditioning, and it can handle a lot of stuff. Eventually, we get where we're even punching each other in the face pretty hard. But here again, it's precision punching. I know if I want to take the guy out, I'm going to hit him in the jaw hands, right? But if I want to be able to, when I'm training, I'll punch him in the soft pocket a lot and punch him. And the guy learns how to take the punch, and he learns how to move with it and not do. Most guys' reactions when you hit him in the head is what? They tighten up and they absorb all the energy of that strike, and they got really stiff necks the next day. And if they don't block it, they get cold cocked in the jaw, and they just had to go get their jaws wired back together, So there's ways to. Here's the sequential part, in a sense. There are exercises and ways that we train through all that to develop those abilities. You don't start off your first night in class taking a full blow strike to the head. You wouldn't survive it, right? So believe me, I have tons of exercises that we do. So how many people do things like fall down on the ground with their hands tied behind their back and their feet tied, and now they have to crawl, and they have to crawl through and over obstacles? Well, this starts being somewhat like military training, right? But think of the muscles that you're using that you don't use in everyday life. I'll tell you what, 2 minutes, I know 2 minutes of that. And most guys are fagged out that are in great shape the first time they don't move like that. See, we want everything to be strong and wiry and slippery and go over objects without your hands, turn, twist, have guys picking you up, and you got to twist out of it. You got guys grabbing all limbs. You got to twist and roll, figure out, here's a funny drill. I'll give you a cool drill to do. Everybody should try this. Okay, get in your class. You're laying on the floor, and you got 4 guys. Each one takes a limb and hangs on to that limb for dear life, okay? And you got to have guys that are strong. They got to get your foot up in the pocket, their forearm. They got to 2-hand clinch it, and they're going to hold you in place. Your job is to escape that, right? So if you can't move and wiggle and twist your torso in such a way that you can finally get one hand over to where it can maybe grab the guy's shirt or grab your own arm and start to get connected and start moving stronger, then reconnect on the other side and break out of it. I put people in crazy ass situations like that where you learn how to use parts of your body in ways that you never thought of. How about shoulder striking and striking with your hip in extreme close quarters? I don't see a lot of people that practice those things. And when we do mob fight and multiple attacker fight, where it's guys trying to grab, we're striking with everything. You're getting headbutted, you're getting elbowed, you're getting forearm blasted, you're getting really, you can develop the ability to strike pretty hard with your hips. Most people just don't do it. So we do a lot of work to free up the motion of your hips so that you can do it. So it's like, it's all body work, from head to foot. How about this? Spend an entire night in class, and all you're doing is you're on the ground, you've fallen on the ground, and the guy's trying to bludgeon you with a baseball bat or a baton, or he's trying to get in a position where he can stab you. And you're only allowed to defend with your feet for the whole class. And one of the ways you develop precision and timing, and we do crazy stuff, you got tennis balls laying on the floor. You're picking up tennis balls with your feet and throwing them to each other. Other guys got to catch it with his feet. A lot of exercises to make parts of your body do things that they've never done before. Unless you're an amputee and you had to learn how to drive your car and play piano with your feet. But we do very challenging, and actually a lot of this stuff is pretty fun because you start realizing your body is capable of doing tons of stuff that you never would have guessed that it could do. And it's fun, and it creates a different kind of level of fitness. And the funny thing is, you can have some body fat on you and still really be able to move, in ways that shock other people and have much more endurance. One of the reasons is because you freed up your body of a lot of muscular tension, see? And freeing yourself of body muscular tension, you're reducing tension on the vascular system as well. And so that you're in, and with good breathing, it's amazing how much endurance you can develop, even if you may not be in tip-top muscular shape. If you got the strong tendons, you got the breathing, you got mobility in your joints, it's amazing what you can do. And there's some more little tidbit secrets for training right there.
Well, I would consider some of that survival training. You know, I would put that survival training as not as a label. I wouldn't say it's specifically like calisthenics or that it's like something. I would consider that survival training, and that's a good thing because that's something I think it's good that we talked about it because that's something people were not aware of, and they didn't know about that, and it's something completely different that other people are not doing. So if you go to Ken's workshop, you're going to get some survival training that you're not going to get anywhere else. And see, sometimes I got to point things out to Ken because he's too close to it. You're so close to the material that you don't see the parts that would be salient to new people. And I think that's definitely a salient aspect because I don't care where you're going, you're not going to really get that sort of being tied up and having to get free or having to get over obstacles. So basically, it's like I said way back on my first tapes, I'm a problem solver. The same thing Ken's doing. We're giving people problems, and then you have to problem solve. You get the solution. And your solution is going to be uniquely your own solution. We know things you're going to have to do to get it, but the thing is, just like you walk differently than I walk, but we all shift our body weight forward and are falling basically, and then catching our balance. We know that those are the underlying mechanics, but the way that you express that's going to be individual to you, idiosyncratic, and the same thing here. And that's something that's very different that you're not going to get if you go to some BJJ clinic. You're not going to get this. You're not going to get this survival type of training. You're going to get, well, here's a technique, and then here's 20 steps how to get into that technique, and then whatever. That's it, end of it. And I just use that as an example because I've seen so many BJJ clinics. I think that's what they call it, clinics.
You know what? Something else you said too that I gave the example of having crawling with your hand, with no hands, with no feet, etc. Every time that we do these exercises, I always point out clearly ways that the average Joe on the street could apply them. And they go, well, what's all this crawling? I go, okay, how about this? You're just in a freaking 3-car pileup. Both your arms are broken. But because you've been training, all the muscles around your shoulder blades are strong and flexible because we practice crawling on our shoulder blades with our legs flat, where we're only using shoulder blades and the heels of our legs with our legs flat. Well, how's that handy? I'm crawling out of a bunch of fucking debris that's on fire with gasoline, and my arms are broken. But I know how to crawl backwards, digging in with my shoulder blades and my heels, and can crawl fast. And then they go, oh, I never thought about it. Oh, so that's why sometimes we have 3 guys lay on top of us, and we have to crawl out from under it. And I go, bingo! That's exactly.
That's survival training. It's although you did look like you were doing 70s disco moves there.
Yeah, look at that.
I don't want people to get confused. Ken's 70 disco dancing class is a different day.
You gotta wait. Now, what was Bruce Lee's big thing for
cha-cha?
What a lot of folks don't know until they read this new book that's out, right? Lyndon said until the day he died, he always had a bit of a conflict between whether he really would have rather been a professional dancer or a martial artist. So there's something synchronous there, right? I mean, it's all movement. It's
body control. Body control. It's
right.
It's about body control. Yeah.
Yes.
And that's why I think that we both got involved with Feldenkrais stuff. It's body awareness. He called it body awareness, but it's body control. It's the same thing. And there's another person that was the Alexander technique. Did you ever do that? Yeah. See, I knew it. And
I had an old yoga teacher who looked at all modes of this stuff. Yeah. And was actually one of the first people to get a bachelor's degree in massage therapy as well in the United States. She was amazing, this gal. Well, she still is, but she doesn't do all that anymore, unfortunately. But man, sure. Yeah, you guys, what we're trying to tell you, there's a lot of stuff out there. You need to look into it. You need to free your mind, and you know what'll follow, right?
Yeah. That's our song, actually. That's our song. That's our theme song. That's if we ever, we should get Millennial. We have a GoFundMe page that we can start doing all that, so we can have we can do like a Rogan thing, where we actually have a lead-in thing and we have a theme music. That we're coming. But that's our that's our song. But yeah, exactly, and that's why it's our song too. I just told you, because there are a lot of things that are connected to this. It's not just about to say the Bruce Lee quote. It's not just a punch. It's not just a punch. It's not just a kick. There's other things involved. And then later, of course, when you're applying it, it is just a punch and just a kick. But it's just a punch and just a kick because you went through all this other stuff, like this Feldenkrais thing, this Alexander stuff, Krishnamurti, all these things. And we've searched and done a lot of things. And I just want to throw this in there. When you were talking about hitting people in the stomach with the medicine ball, use a Thai pad. That's they do that too. In Thailand they use a Thai pad, and man, they can, depending on how sadistic the bastard is with the Thai pad, that stings. Even if you can take it, it still stings if they're smacking. If they're loading up and smacking, there's different types of impact. And Benny Urquidez used to talk about this a lot. Benny Urquidez, the Jet, used to talk about this, and he used to do a lot of this, and it's good stuff. Like you slap each other's bodies to get used to the impact, so it didn't shock you. And there is a big difference. As we get into sport fighting here, people will go into shock if they've never been hit before, especially by a professional and a heavyweight. You'll go into shock because you just don't know how damn hard that is. And I'm talking about, I'll just throw this in there. Guys that are heavyweight K1 fighters, and their kick, it's like two guys with baseball bats. It's that dangerous. It's like two guys with baseball bats swinging hard because that leg, that's it, man. And then punching too. Punching obviously is very deadly too. That's why at a heavyweight level, somebody at 100 kilos can knock you out at any given time if they get something in clean. So that's also the excitement of watching heavyweights, because it can turn around at any moment. Whereas lower weight, especially lightweights, it's all about technique and speed. That's who's going to win there, because they don't have the power to knock each other out. They just don't. But so anyway, I'm just throwing that out there as parts of things that you can take away, because we give out a lot of information in our talks, because we start getting going and it's stuff that we enjoy talking about. But I think it's very important to make aware to the general populace that what we're doing is not what you're seeing done at other places. And the thing I talk about, hardwiring, which I won't go into, you haven't done it anywhere. It's as unique as the survival training that Ken is doing. And that's what makes you successful. The things that we're doing here are to make you more successful. Because we're not just about, like I said this, and I'm going to say it again, we're not about impressing people with what we know. It's not about mystifying you with a bunch of techniques. It's not about giving you this 30,000 things and you come away with not knowing any of them, trying to remember 3 of them, and you can't do any of them. That's not how I operate. It's more, this is all more of a, it kind of sounds stupid to say this, hands-on, where you're performing. It's about your performance, not my performance. And it isn't about like sitting in a lecture hall. It's not like that at all. It's not like a lecture hall in university where you go in and you listen to someone and they say all this stuff and you don't even get 50% really of what they're saying, every single word, because everything we're doing is very important. So I got to reiterate that, man. I got to reiterate that, because the survival mode, I think that's a very important thing for you to start promoting, that aspect of that, especially to new people. I think you should be promoting that to new people, because it's something that people aren't aware of yet that they need. And that example of the burning car, or even on a boat, I was reading about a boat that caught on fire and stuff, and same sort of thing, scenario more or less happened, what you're talking about there. That ability, and then of course swimming. What if you can't? You know what I'm saying? This is one thing SEALs learn how to do, because talking about the Navy Special Forces guy, because if they can't use their arms, they still got to be able to swim. Yeah. And it's now, and they do it too because they want to test people to see if they're going to go into shock, and if they can remain. A lot of things that the military does, they're trying to break you, see if you can retain composure. But we're trying to build you. There's a little difference there. We're not trying to break you. We're trying to build you. The thing, the composure is what you're really talking about. That's what you're talking about with the survival thing. Retaining your composure so that you can get out of the exit the vehicle. And you've been there before, and it's always better to have been there before than have try to solve the problem for the first time when the consequences are grave. So
you know, the way I frame it, and this is important, is I phrase it as experiential somatic.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Through the body. You don't have to memorize a bunch of stuff. All the other martial arts I was in, oh, you had to memorize this and that and this funky name for it. Most of the stuff we do, we don't even have names for it because it doesn't matter. It's what you want to do is you want to create neural pathways for movement. You know, neural pathways and muscle groups for movement in every different which way possible. And the body's own wisdom, especially in these situations where there's not a whole lot of time for conscious thinking. If you've got your, like you said earlier, if you're programming the body in certain ways to move and teaching through the body that it can move in ways that it didn't realize it can move, what do you think happens then after a while? Once it's learned that and it's under stress, you start doing stuff, and all of a sudden you have to sit there maybe for 15 minutes afterward to analyze what you just did and why did it work? I don't even know what I did. That's right, you don't know, because your body took over. Your conscious thinking brain was only involved in certain bits and pieces of it, because if you had to depend on that all the time, it's like, let's see, well, my arms and my legs are on fire and my pelvis is crushed. Let's see. Step number 1, anybody got a fire extinguisher? I mean, that's not going to work. You're going to die. So that's how I would frame it. Experiential somatic is the phrase I like to use for that.
Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's the same thing. It's like what we're doing is we're moving from the human brain down to the reptile brain. Reptile brain being reflexive and not having conscious thought. You don't get to reflect on it. That's a lot of people want to do that. I train people where they cannot think. I put them in thing where they have to respond so many times, so quickly to the response that they don't get time to think about it. Everybody wants to think about it because they want to use their analytical, they want to use their mammalian brain. Yeah. They want to get to their frontal cortex. Well, the frontal cortex is not the thing that solves problems for them. It's their reptile brain. Same thing like submarine crews. How many times do submarine crews practice fire, 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 or dive, dive, dive? You know, they do that until it's reflexive. They run drills all the time. The military runs drills in every branch for whatever you happen to be doing. Why? Because it's got to be reflexive. It can't be like, well, I think I remember that. No, hell no. It's not, I think I can do it. It's I can do it woken up from my sleep, you know? Yeah. And that's the same sort of, it's NASA, astronauts, same thing too. Everybody who has to produce results under immense stress uses the same sort of training protocols, and I do that. You won't find that. You won't find that going to BJJ clinics. You won't find that going to Muay Thai workshops. You won't find it. You won't find it anywhere else, and that's why it's very unique. That's why my doing tactical self-protection training, and that's what separates it completely from that. We're using a limited amount of responses that you just learn how to control those responses in different situations, different environments, all these different hostile environments. You can do it inside. Can you do it in the snow? Can you do it? Can you do it in the mountains? Can you do it in the mud? Can you do it at nighttime? All these different environments change everything. Although your responses need to stay the same, but until you've been in those hostile environments, you're not prepared for it. You can think you are, but you're not. You know, and I mean, there's lots of things. It's like saying, I'll use this. I won't use Mike Sandlin's. Mike Sandlin's is better, but I'll use this one. So you've been playing ping pong, and now you think you can play tennis. It's not the same. Yeah, it's got rackets, nets, and a ball, but that's it. Rackets, net, and a ball, but it's completely different. And tennis can change with clay courts or cement courts or whatever. And not that I play tennis, but I just know enough about it, you know. And it's not ping pong, you know. It's not ping pong. And you think, oh, I'm such a great ping pong player. Well, it doesn't mean anything to tennis. Same thing with this. We're saying you got to be capable of responding in different environments. So that's it. Let's. I mean, we're gonna go off at different tangents if we don't end this pretty soon. So I think let's give out the information again because hey guys, we're here not just to educate you. We gotta get something back from this. Is a two-way street. We're letting you know about the stuff that was pretty hidden from a lot of people for a really long period of time. So once again, Ken's thing is on October the 27th.
Yep,
Saturday.
From 8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
What? From what time?
8 a.m. to 12 p.m.
Okay, a little early, but okay. 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. And he'll give you the directions because it's going to be held outside. It's going to be held outside. So
regardless of weather. So yeah, and there's a good chance it'll be rainy and cold that time of year around here. And it's like, okay, if you don't show up, then the next time you show up, you have to run the gauntlet. And the gauntlet, I'll just say, it involves numerous people with baseball bats, and that's all I'll say about that.
Okay, well, if he you might have scared away some people, but
yeah, I might have scared him there, but I'm just kidding, just kidding.
Yeah, okay. So anyway, just to say it again, it's October 27th, Saturday, 8 a.m. to noon. 8 a.m. to noon, St. Louis. Contact him on his Facebook. He put up his phone number earlier. Go back through this when it's on YouTube, and you can call him. And the thing is, he'll give you directions. It's pretty easy to find location. That's why
it's off the major artery that runs through St. Louis, right through the center of the city. It's easy to find. Yeah,
that's why he picks that place. It makes it pretty easy. Okay, now for me, now for my information here. Okay, so I'll be in Ravenna, Ohio, which is named after an Italian town, and it's about 40 to 45 minutes from Cleveland. So if you're going to fly into Cleveland, we got some guys flying in, by the way. They're coming in through Cleveland. I will be too, actually. So anyway, it starts the 26th. That's Friday night, 7 p.m. Don't miss it. That introduction and everything that we do reception there is very important because you also you hear about the method, the history, why we're doing this. You meet the guys, and you also start doing things. So that's 2.5 hours on Friday night. Then Saturday, October 27th, Saturday, we start at noon. So everyone has some sleep, rest, because it's going to go 8 hours. It's going to be cool. It's going to be more stuff than you've ever done that's real. Okay, it's not going to be overwhelming as far as memory because I'll make sure that you get it all. Anyway, so that's 8 hours on Saturday at 8 p.m. And then we're going to have a Viking Viking party at a guy, one of my main guys at the Mills Tavern. That's his own place, Mills Tavern. So if you want to be one of the Vikings, you come over to that, tell big stories about how the day went. And then Sunday, we're going to start at 10 a.m. and we're finished at noon. And that's just covering up a few things. And then we have our awards presentation because it gets pretty heated. A lot of people protest. So that'll be cool. But anyway, so 26, 27, 28 of October, that is on both of my websites. It's on in my Facebook pages and groups also, but you can find it on fluentfighting.com and also combat-judo.com. You can find it on both those websites. It gives more information. Get your slot now because prices go up as we get towards it. This is tactical training. It's in line with the prices for tactical handgun training, although you don't have to have ammunition. You're not paying a range fee. You don't have to bring a holster and a gun. So, that's like $1,000 you don't have to invest, but this is the same sort of tactical training. Anyway, so that's what I have to say about that. Ken and I covered a lot of cool stuff that I like. I mean, I thought it was informative to me, so stay tuned because we're doing lots of talks to keep your mind glued that there's other things out there. And that's one of our goals is to expand your mind, see other possibilities, and to learn new things. And that's basically what I have to say. Ken, you got something you want to tell the populace?
No, I think we kind of summed it up and gave them pretty good ideas of what's going on. I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. So we'll like this. Share this video to people. I know that it's you want to see cool little demonstrations that are very short, but this is what really matters on your martial arts journey. This information and then exposing new paths and trails and learning experience from guys who've been there and done it is very important to those who are very interested in increasing their martial arts journey. So anyway, okay, so we'll talk to you again soon. Stay tuned. And like I said, share this video, man. Share it.